The following presentation is for mature audiences only.
Who are you?
He's a fine man.
All hell is broken loose.
He's a great broadcaster.
He's a very powerful guy. Absolutely brilliant.
Feared by men, adored by women. He's a smart boy. It's patriotic.
It's no big deal.
It's the end of the world.
I might as well tell you now. He's a monkey.
And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Welcome in to another edition of The Wild Side with Eric Clark. I am your not at all humble host, Eric Clark, saying thank you for taking time out of your busy day to give my video a watch and a listen. If you like it, like it. If you think other people are going to like it, give it a share. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and you are following me on all of the social media platforms. That way, if there's a band, a song, a video, something you want me to check out, or a question you have, you can hit me up with a DM or leave it in the comments below. If you are going to leave it in the comments below, just do me a favor, read through. If you see yours has already been suggested, just leave it a like and an I concur. That helps my old burnout resin-coated DJ brain put everything into a nice little organized list and get it into the Handy Dandy Notebook. Yes, we are on Handy Dandy Notebook number 2. I am saving them. I'm going to auction them off for charity or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I do have them. I am keeping up with them. Thank you to Gabriel. Thank you to everybody who's been helping me keep up with certain lists for certain bands. I appreciate that. It can get a little bit overwhelming. So please, no spamming unless you want to send me spam. That's a completely different animal right there, man. I don't even know if spam is an animal. Yeah, spiced ham. But that's a completely different conversation. Wow, I'm getting off on a tangent already. Good morning. So if there's something you want me to check out, you can hit me up with a DM, but just try not to hammer me. That's all I'm saying. Before I get to today's video, I do want to say thank you to Aspen Dental, Connect 200, Music 2C, and Gothic Jewelry. They are those that make the Wild Side possible, so I say thank you. Also, thank you to Just Jen Reacts. She had me on her channel the other day, and we reacted to a Nightwish video, Everdream. Had a blast. It was a great time. Thank you to all of the new subscribers. Thank you to all the new viewers. If you are new and you don't know what the I Concur Army is, you'll be joining it relatively soon. And thank you to everybody who popped up on Jen's stream while we were doing it and we're doing the I Concur. So it makes me laugh. It really does. I know that in the world where 50% of what you see is fake and the other 50% is a lie, it's difficult to believe. But I do chuckle every time I see an I Concur pop up on my social media or pop up on another channel. When I know it's going beyond just our little group, I think it is absolutely hilarious. And thank you for that too, because like I said on Jen's video, these are signs that you're listening, you're paying attention, you're giving me that respect. Even if it is in a cheeky way, you're showing me that respect. So I try to do the same. So thank you to everybody, and thank you to helping me with all the name pronunciations and locations and histories. And I'm pretty well versed on a lot of things now, so thank you very much for that. Today's video, we are back on General Gabriel's list, and we are checking out a live performance from Buenos Aires. This is Nightwish with Elvenjig and Elvenpath, and this was suggested from my previous Nightwish video I did, if I'm not mistaken. This has probably been suggested. This is not unfamiliar to me, meaning the name and the location. This has been suggested quite a few times, and I believe by different people. So we're checking out from the Decades Tour, Buenos Aires, Elvenjig, Elvenpath, Nightwish. Here we go. I'm not predicting anything, but I have a feeling there's going to be some Jethro Tull vibes going on here, and I'm really super stoked for that. Sorry, I got to go back for just a second. I just got to write something down. I'm very sorry about that. I just have to write something down. All right.
Sheltering shade of the forest, calming silence, accompanied only by the full moon, the howling of a night wolf, and the path under my bare feet, the Elvenpath.
All right, that was Nightwish with Elvenjig, Elvenpath, live Buenos Aires from the Decades tour. That is a lot to go through. It really is. But on the finishing note, I will say this. That little last minute where Empu is playing this solo, this may actually be the first time I've seen him. Okay. So when I was doing the reaction with Just Jen, I brought up something I've brought up before about Empu. This particular item of interest. Normally, when you watch him play, from the most simple of riffs to the most intricate of flowing notes, he has what I call the great guitar, especially country musician, and even Eddie Van Halen, they kind of suffered in a way. It is the aw shucks. It's the aw shucks. When you watch them play, what you're hearing is super involved and super rich and super big. But when you look at them, they normally have this very at ease look on their face. And in country music, especially like Roy Clark, Jerry Reed, Ry Cooder, people like that, they had a very aw shucks just kind of look on their face. But this may be the one time I've seen him not struggle. It's not what I'm saying. Don't get me wrong. Hold on a second. Sorry. Push. This may be the first time I've seen him work it. I know that may not be a very common euphemism around the world internationally. So that's why I'm struggling, because all of the euphemisms I would have for this disposition, I'm not sure would translate. So this is the first time I've seen him put effort into what he's doing. Wow. Okay. I really hope that came out. Okay. So let's go back. Let's go all the way back. We'll go back to the beginning of this one, because there is a lot to unpack, because the song shifts in tone, it shifts in rhythm, it shifts in key, it shifts in who is really the key player here. There's a lot of shifting elements here in this song. And again, it's one of the reasons that I'm drawn to the journey, the exploration that Tuomas goes on in his music. And when he is putting pen to paper and then note to sound, the way he does it is so... I once called it the OCD of metal. It is perfect measure. And what I mean by measure, I'm not speaking a musical measure. I'm speaking a weights and measures measure. So he understands balance. He understands transition, and he understands all of the classic and foundational elements of what is going to cut through any guard you may put up, because he's speaking to such a known tone. Because that song, and I went back to the transition between the songs. And this is where I paused, and it took me a second, but that is Styx. It's dripping ELP, but that is ELP, Styx, Uriah Heep, just that of salt or whatever you want to call it, a dash, whatever you want to call that. That moment right there really shows me again and again, another piece of evidence. I'll explain. Okay. When you're introducing people to new music, what you want to be able to do is have a sense of familiarity. You want something that's not going to push them away from this new sound. And even though it's, again, not everybody knows who Nightwish is. Not everyone knows who Sabaton are. Not everyone knows these bands. So when you're introducing them, especially from my world of radio, when you're introducing people to new music and there's a psychology to it, you want to be able to provide a very familiar sound somewhere in there. So they make that connection. They can go back in their own musical history, into their own metal and rock histories, and remember the cassettes and remember the early CDs and even the vinyl and the 8-track. And I know people that would listen to music on reel-to-reel. My grandfather listened to music on reel-to-reel. He had this Atari reel-to-reel machine in his den, and it was all about Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky and Brahms and Beethoven. It was all the classical music on reel-to-reel, and it had this rich flavor to it. Wow, I really digressed there. But that, I didn't really digress because it ties it in. Because again, you're looking for that familiar sound. You're looking for that familiar hit when you're introducing people to new stuff. And I love how Tuomas understands the tradition, and he understands what those familiar sounds are and what those comfortable sounds are. So he's able to just, while creating his own piece of art, he's so good at just dropping in that sound. And overall, this first part, Elvenjig, it's not only carrying through that rich sound of progressive metal. To me, it's almost, I wrote down Gallows Pole. It really does have that same energy, doesn't it? It has that very medieval, yet, so it's like a Stephen King book, The Stand or The Gunslinger, where you're thinking, or the Dark Tower series, where you're thinking, okay, it's the future, but it's the past. Is it the past, but kind of the future? Is it an alternate universe? It is his own universe that he's creating here. But there's certain familiar tones and tropes and settings and imagery that pops into your head when you hear these certain things. And that's what popped into my head. But this is a very easy sounding part of the construction, right? This Elvenjig, in a sense, has a very easy sound to it. Very basic, very traditional, very warm, very rich, and very clean. They're playing this part, this Elvenjig. Everything is clean. And my God, I love those leather pants, man. Only that guy could wear those pants. And he is so metal. He's just the metalist of metal dudes ever. But they're super clean. Everybody's tone, everybody's chord progressions, everybody's movement through this part of the journey is very clean. And it's what Nightwish really stands out about, is this very clean, not clinical, but clean and rich and traditional, thick tone that's coming through in this part of the song. And I really like that. And I like how it builds as well. So it builds into the flute and then the Ilian. I really hope I said that correctly. Those Ilian pipes that speak to that. Again, this is, maybe I could be wrong, but for me anyway, this part of the song speaks to a joyous childhood innocence. It's there's no fear in this tone. There's no fear in this song. I don't feel it anyway. There's joy, there's dance, there's skipping stones or whatever you did as a kid. Somebody asked me once, I think it wasn't one of my kids, I think it was one of their friends, asked me if I had ever played Kick the Can. Mr. Clark, you ever played Kick the Can? And all I thought was, bro, how old do you think I am? I didn't grow up in the 1920s. Good Lord. But it does. It speaks to that. It speaks to a purity within yourself, I think. For me, anyway. Not that there's any of that left. And then it builds. Creates this more. So that first part, the Elvenjig, I really like it because, again, it's very happy. It's very bright. Every tone element in the spectrum is bright. So Kai is normally, when you're watching a drummer of Kai's caliber, what you're he's definitely setting an earth tone normally, but in this variant, this part here, he's creating a light tone, and it's really cool how he does that with the drums. And then when they hit that second part, Elvenpath, and I'll get to that, it really does make the transition. But it's easy to miss things in this part, and it's why I wanted to draw to Tuomas's OCD, layer cake, trifle baking of metal, is because while it speaks to, maybe that's what it is, and I'm just not able to make that connection until this moment, is that the song's overall tone speaks to a very simple and basic part of who I am and my own innocence and my own guilelessness, my own naivete of the world. But if you're watching what they're doing and you really pay attention to how this song is played, Elvenjig, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. And all of their tones, and again, I can't, it's difficult to express the impression upon me, the perfect chord progressions, the perfect finger touching. Everything that's going on in the song is on point and it's perfect. And again, it's another reason why this band is set apart from others. So then we go into the transition, and I got a little into the transition we go. When we go into this part of the transition here, what really stood out, and it took a minute. It really did. It took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around the ebb and flow of the band during this song. And again, it's only it's 4.5 minutes, but it's still this very kinetic energy that is oozing, even from the speakers, even from the screen. You're getting this really good energy and chemistry, which is what I love. They're having fun. It's coming through in their performance. But this was really interesting in that the transition normally, when you're transitioning, and I don't think this is two songs. For me, this strikes me as something like Heartbreaker, Livin' Lovin' Made by Led Zeppelin. Eruption, You Really Got Me. Feeling That Way Anytime by Journey. These are two songs. It's really one. You play them. Threshold, Jet Airliner by Steve Miller, and you have to play the version that doesn't say funky kicks. You got to play the right version, man. But this is one of those pieces of music that are actually, even though it's two songs, Elvenjig, Elvenpath, what I'm feeling is this is one song. So it's one thing. So normally in that transition, the transition is going to be motivated by the guitar or the vocal. In rock, that's how it's normally structured. When they make that transition, they get like Nancy Wilson is playing that acoustic guitar going into Crazy on You. That's, you got to play that intro, or Ronnie Wood playing the intro into Maggie May. That's just a traditional, again, it's a comfortable tone sound that you're expecting to hear. And I'm getting too many names in my head. I got to pause for a second. So this transition was really, the impetus of this transition was Kai. And that's what confused me, because even though she comes in, Floor Jansen comes in, again, what really is staggeringly unique about her, and I'm not hearing it from a lot of people, especially live in front of 20,000 people, especially live, is that she is on from the first letter to the last letter. Her notes are solid and thick and rich the entire time. And that's rare. I don't know if people understand how rare that is, because most people ramp and fade, especially live, and especially when you're singing that way. So her control of that instrument is on a level that not many human beings are on, from opera singers to metal singers to whomever. That is a very special talent. That is a very special ability. And her control of that, I talk about the control of the danger zone on a singer. The danger zone, especially in metal, is in this area where it can turn from a note to a yell and then to a scream. It's like volume and modulation. There's a difference between the two. They don't always have to be equal. So she's really good at controlling that danger zone in those registers that other people would absolutely fail in. So her vocals are impressive and they dominate from the get-go. But here's what confused me. I don't think that Elvenpath, it was about the story. So nobody really kind of took over the song. It was weird because, again, like I said about Empu, watching him at the end, it was the first time I've seen him put in work. Again, I really hope that made sense. Whereas with Floor, this is one of the first times where she was, normally you get the, Empu comes in, plays his thing, Troy comes in, plays his thing, and then, Kai comes in, plays his little blah, 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 and then, no. It was her turn to do that. It was really impressive that it flowed the way that it flowed. And the song was more about telling the story than it was about who is telling the story. Again, I hope that makes sense. And speaking of vocals, Marco and Floor, this is a very special time for this band. I don't want to speak of it in a nostalgically depressing way. That's not what I'm saying, because in a way I'm jealous. I'm jealous that for a moment in time this existed and I wasn't there. if that makes sense. I'll be honest, that's really where it's coming from. But this is a very, Marco and Floor, you have Marco, the absolute pinnacle of metal vocalist. And then you have Marco, who for me impresses me on many levels. And one of the main levels upon which he impresses is how he can harmonize and still sound like a ball-peen hammer. So it's just this crazy sound and tone that he has perfected over the years, from Tarot all the way to the video we'll do later for the Powerless Trio. His vocals are metal. There's no issue there. Once I saw him do Take On Me with the other vocalists, I realized, okay, this guy is special as well. And I don't think you should come away from any of these performances and ever think that guy's a backup singer. No. That would be not insulting, but intellectually offensive. That, to me, that I would just kind of look at you like, what are you talking about? So again, lightning in a bottle. This song again, it made me take a step and go, okay, man, I get it. This is the real musician tying this song together is Kai. The drums from the beginning to the end are the driving force, and I would say main element of the music, because, and here's where it gets really super complicated. I might have to smoke, because again, it's only a 7.5 minute track, but it does make you think. The drums and the lyrics, not the singing, the drums and the lyrics. The lyrics take you on an adventure. They tell a story. The instruments weave the setting. They weave the ambient. They weave the ancillary items in the journey that you're picturing in your head. Whatever imagery you're putting to the lyrics in your head, the instruments, the bass, the guitar, the pipes, the keys, they're taking you, they're filling in the trees, they're filling in the clouds, they're filling in the earth, they're filling in the ground. But what's really taking you on the journey are the lyrics telling the story and the drums that are your heartbeat through the adventure. And it is absolutely, without a doubt, core progressive rock. And it is, without a doubt, some of the best modern 20 years progressive metal I've heard. Because that is traditional in its sound. And it's even traditional in its storytelling. Because again, Styx, ELP, Led Zeppelin, Genesis, the early Genesis with Peter Gabriel. I think he's right there, yeah. When he would come out dressed as a sunflower. You know, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Selling England by the Pound. These are very adventurous, well-written, well-scripted, well-sculpted pieces of art. And that's what that was for me. So the story was great, but for me, what was really taking me on that path, and I guess pun intended, but taking me on that journey through the song was really the drums and the lyrics, because she's hitting these notes, bro. And she is without a doubt commanding every particle of energy in the room. And yet for some reason, the story was bigger. Maybe not the story. That's maybe not what I'm talking about. But the theme, the all-encompassing vibe was bigger. And it's great how he does that. It's great how they do that. It's his ability to write these songs and these lyrics and tell these stories from such an individual perspective, trusting the people that he has with him are such magnificent musicians, with Troy on the pipes. Again, those pipes speak to that very young, broken, scared, but it's going to be okay kid in me. And it really hits this special part of me. So he trusts these folks and Floor's vocals and her ability to run that scale of pushing the limits. He knows that Empu every single time is going to create the perfect tone. And in that first part, you could hear it when he's laying on that whammy bar and he's extending the tone and he's bending that string. He's creating that perfect, comfortable tone. So he trusts them to tell this story and to translate this piece of art for him. And I find it ever impressive when a band like Nightwish can make me go back 40 years in my brain. It's not just a pop song, but it's a song that I would play on the radio. It's not an opus, right? But it's a good enough story that the 7.5 minutes seems to fly by. And I give that credit to Kai. I think that he created such a good pace and such a fantastic saccadic connection to the song that it's like one of those swings at the carnival where it's just, I can't believe that we used to do these and they might still exist, but it was just a couple of chains, 50 feet long, and they would strap you into this old school car seat and you would just, swing around. And that's kind of what that was, that joyous adventure. So thank you very much for the suggestion. That was Elvenjig, Elvenpath Live, Buenos Aires. That was a great trip. It was a great journey, so thank you very much for the suggestion. If you do have a suggestion for a song, a video, a band, something you want me to check out, all you have to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on social media. Hit me up with a DM or leave it in the comments below. If you are going to leave it in the comments below, you know what to do, I Concur Army. Just read through. You see yours has been suggested. Leave a like and an I Concur. That'll help me get it into the handy-dandy notebook. Thank you to Aspen Dental, Connect 200, Music 2C, and Gothic Jewelry. They are those that make the wild side possible. And, of course, thank you for taking time out of your busy day making the world a better place to give my video a watch, and a listen. Make sure you're looking out for each other. Make sure you're looking out for your neighbor. Try to do at least one good thing a day. I am Eric Clark, and this has been The Wild Side.